recording. Let's bring it on.
Tell them Africa we don't die. So here comes the African giant.
Yes.
Yeah.
We here, man.
Finally.
Yo, Folaji.
Yo, Seun.
What's going on, man?
It's about time, man. 2020. We
2020.
keep saying it.
Yes. So we proactive. We talked about it, but we didn't just talk. We started and we did it. So we're here. What are we here for, bro?
This is the Pepper Soup Pod.
What is that again?
Pepper Soup. Pepper Soup, man. One of my favorite Nigerian dishes, man.
Word.
Really love
PSP, aka Pepper Dem. We're here. Welcome to our very first podcast. I'm excited, man. How you feeling?
Super duper excited. It's something like we said, we talk about a lot, and this is a year of action, and it's time, and to keep a lot of the things to ourselves is being selfish. You told me that before, right? You're like, Folaji, you selfish. Why would you know all these things and you're not sharing it? So,
right.
It's time for us to share, collaborate, do our thing.
Yeah, man. Look, I couldn't have said it any better. I'm excited as well to, get this started. Let's rock and roll, rolling and rocking. And yeah, so obviously I didn't mean selfish in a bad way. But no, I heard, actually, was it from MK Sante Jr., very powerful young man that's an author and poet and lecturer in his own right. He said when there's an obligation, when you make an observation, then you're obligated to do something. So I felt like we've had our respective observations of life. So in a sense, we felt obligated to come together and create this thing called Pepper Soup Pod, where we just talk about our respective experiences, first-generation Africans by way of Nigeria, and our, respective experiences, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I know you guys out there, y'all wondering, like, why did they call it pepper soup?
Why do we call it pepper soup?
Well, we were just talking. Remember that night we talk as we do. We chop it up, and we just figured, if we're gonna do a pod, let's make it spicy. And what's spicy, And I was like, well, shout out to Grandma O, my mother-in-law. Best caterer for Nigerian food. That's a plug.
Okay.
But her pepper soup is serious, man. Really serious. And you can throw goat meat, you can throw oxtail, you can throw fish. So a lot of different ways to spice it up.
Mix it all up.
And that's what we're trying to do here. Mix it up. A lot of different topics we're gonna delve into.
Right. Let's go, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess maybe they want to know who we are.
True.
Funny enough, I was talking to Sheed today, right? I was talking to Sheed, and she said, I said, I'm doing this podcast with Seun. He's like, oh, that's the most famous Nigerian in Philly.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, I'm dead serious. That's what he said. Because he didn't even know we were doing a pod. He's like, ask any Nigerian in Philly if they know Seun, and I bet you they do.
$5 goes a long way, people. I paid my friend Folaji to say that. But no, shout out to Sheed, his little brother, good friend of ours, obviously his little brother. But yeah, before we, begin, I'll just share my perspective on Pepper Soup Pod. Think of chicken soup for the soul. At least that's part of our inspiration, right? Chicken Soup for the Soul series. It was Jack Hanfield and Mark Hansen, right? So they had this very popular series several years ago that took the nation by storm, where they shared a lot of true inspirational stories from people. And the simplicity of that series really inspired a lot of people to change their perspective on things. And think of what soup and food does for your soul. We talk about Grandma O as my buddy's eating that soup, and I'm sure as you guys have eaten food or whatever nourishes you, it feels good, right? Like you're empty in a sense. There's a void and your stomach is growling. So you take on that pepper soup or whatever food of your delicacy, and you feel good. So we felt, to my buddy's point, let's create a pod that talks about real topics, spicy in a sense, and we're both of Nigerian descent. So Pepper Soup Pod. So just get ready, sit down, relax if you're wherever you are, and get ready for this journey where we dive in and talk about all things that influence us. So who are you, Folaji? People may want to know a little bit about you.
Man, well,
who are you, bro?
Folaji, who am I, man? Father of 4, you know.
Shout out.
Yeah, a beautiful family. And just, I think, again, this is a year that I want to take drastic leaps, right? So my background, electrical engineering, worked in corporate for a long time, a number of different roles, but I've been blessed with the opportunity to pursue my passion, which is really entrepreneurship. So I have a couple startups I'm going to be working on. Obviously, this pod is another one. I got some real estate ventures going on in Philly and outside of Philly, and just really using this year to really come into myself. Hopefully, can share some of the knowledge that I've learned and continue to build on my knowledge and expertise. And you, Seun?
Shout out. Yeah, me. Wow, who am I? So yeah, Seun Ario, mother of
Mother.
I'm sorry, you could tell. It's first time, guys. We're gonna be some outtakes, but no, I mean the son of a beautiful mother and father, Dr. and Mrs. Ario, and by way of Nigeria, first generation, came here when I was 3, and from the cradle of Yoruba land, I would like to say, which is Ile Ife. Shout out to my Nigerian people, you know what that's about. But backgrounds in accounting and worked in corporate as well, hedge fund space for about 4 years, transitioned into brand management now. I've been doing that for about 8 years. It's a beautiful thing. And also on my own entrepreneurial journey, looking to expand and just, just go for the top. And there's a lot of things in this journey of life, all right, that we're seeking to not necessarily master, but, we want to get better at it, right? So in our respective journey, that's why we came together. Like, let's talk about some things that inspire us. How was our journey along the way? What did we learn? What could we have done better? Let's just be honest and let's just have some fun with it too, right?
I like it.
So that's in short.
No, you said you came from Nigeria when you were 3.
Right, I was 3.
So
yeah.
I think I got you by 2 years. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
you came here with 5.
Yeah, 5.
Oh,
5,
wow. Formerly known as Sean, right? So, which is the people are like, what? Yes, my full name is Oluwaseun. Seun was the tail end, and I remember growing up. So like. People say, how do you say Shay? What's your name? I'm like, look, just call me Sean. That's easier, right? It's easier for you, right? So that actually, it's interesting, right? So we want to talk about cultural duality, right, in today's inaugural show and what that means for us, both of us being Nigerian, American, the influence of Nigeria, the influence of America, who are we, identity, and how that shaped us. So we just want to talk about our journey in a sense, right?
Right. And funny about the name thing, because I'm Olufalaji Abidemi Fadeyibi. And you know what's so funny? Like, it's funny how you grow up and you mature. Because one of the things I remember when I was younger was I was terrified on the first day of school when they would call names. You know what I'm
Why
saying?
was that? Now, is this like a roll call or?
Yeah. Like, first day of school, you're in class, and
Sure.
he has the list, and he'll say, Becky Smith, John Taylor. Then he comes to your name, and you're kind of embarrassed. I mean, because we were young, right? At least for me.
Right.
So it wasn't until I started getting older, and I mean, like, probably college, a little bit, even more than that, that I now love to see somebody struggle and try to pronounce my name. Like this, I was on the phone the other day, and this lady was like, and I didn't say nothing. I just waited for her to give it a shot.
Right,
and
right.
a lot of times they get it, and sometimes they don't. I'll be like, thanks for trying. It's actually pronounced this way. So I've come to embrace the culture and love the culture and love who I am. So I think that, that's one thing we should talk to our kids about too, because I never even thought about that. Now maybe they feel some type of way, because of their name, but I wouldn't know because I haven't asked them. So,
but no, that's interesting that you bring that up. As you're articulating that, I'm like, yo, that's pretty much what my journey was in terms of the roll call. But to your point, right? So what I would do, I started to peep games. So I said, okay, you know what? These teachers used to struggle. So what I would do is get to class a little bit early, maybe 5 minutes before class starts, and I go to the teacher, and they're like, "Who are you?" It's like the first day of school. I said, "Oh, I'm Oluwaseun Ario," and they pull out their like roll sheet, and I'm like, "Yeah, right there, that's me. You can just call me Olu for short, or Seun for short." Because it was crazy, because kids would laugh at you, or the teacher, or how about this? Anderson here, okay. Adams here, all right. This is a toughie. This is a hard one. You're like, really?
Yeah,
like,
and then you raise your hand like, that's me.
That's me. Like,
right.
just So, but no, that's identity, right? So, in terms of identity formation, I have a follow-up question for you as well, Folaji. You said something. You said, as you grew older, you were like, now I actually like to see people, not struggle per se, but as they're like trying to figure out your name, you're like, you're gonna watch them. So what was it though, right? That shift, and let's like maybe start like, why did you feel maybe a little ashamed earlier of your name, and then what were those things that changed your perspective, right? To be like, nah, I'm Folaji.
Yo, great question, Seun. Great question. And I think this is so true because a lot of us struggled with it in some aspect, right? Because our names are very different, man. I remember, and sometimes you let things go and you just aren't wise enough to say something. But as we're talking about this is bringing up a lot of memories. And
right.
This wasn't even what we were going to talk about, but we'll move on. But there was one time I was in class and the guy, it was back in high school, and the teacher said, people just throw words together. And I didn't stand up and say, no, we're not throwing words together. That's actually part of our language, and each syllable means a word in our language, and Olufalaji means God has blessed you. I didn't have that strength, at that time, because I think what it was, Seun, to your question is, I think I at least was trying to assimilate. I was trying to become like my peers, right? So one of the first things I noticed, first grade or second grade, I can't remember what grade it was, but one of the first things I noticed was that I sounded different than these guys, right? I sounded different than everybody in my classroom. So I started trying to sound like them. I didn't want that Nigerian accent on me, you know what I'm saying? And so that was kind of it. I think it's the whole thing of trying to be like other people. Again, I was hesitant, or I was a little anxious or nervous when my name was about to be called, because it wasn't like theirs. It wasn't like John. It wasn't like Mike, And so I think that's where the fear came out of. And then, as you grow older, one of the things with me was I started liking the not only the culture, but the language itself. And I always felt like, man, I can't speak Yoruba. So it wasn't until like I was 22, 23 that I was like, man, it would be really cool if I could speak Yoruba. I can understand Yoruba, like everything, but my speaking is just not where I want it to be. So I started consciously trying to speak Yoruba at that point. Yeah, but that's a good question.
Cool.
How about you?
Word. Yeah, similar, right? So I think that, coming from Nigeria, you growing up in America, you're a kid, and you just kind of see how your peers are reacting around you, you know what I mean? And as you're growing up and learning about yourself, i.e. your identity, you're seeing like, what makes kids laugh, et cetera. Similar, right? So just, I think all the way through high school was known as Seun. It wasn't until college, right? Like freshman year of college, where you're obviously exposed to a lot of people from everywhere, you know what I mean, from different parts of the world. And it's just one of those things. I don't really think it was a big deal, like in high school, like, okay, whatever, Oluwa, Seun, call me Seun. It's close enough, you know what I mean? I know people didn't really mean any disrespect, so I just rode out with it. But so right around your age, around that age too, right? You said 22, so same thing for me, maybe but a few years prior, right? 18, 19, was like, yo, I'm Oluwa Seun. You know what I mean? Like, that means something powerful, God, I thank you. That's the meaning of the name. And we're both, of Yoruba descent. That's our tribe in Nigeria. And the rich history of our culture, you know what I mean? And starting to see how people outside of your culture actually embrace your culture. Maybe people like, yo, I've had some food from your country before. It's really good. And I'm like, yo, we're used to the jollof fries, the pepper soup, the everything. But once you begin to see, like, hold up, that is me. So just being conscientious as well to like learn more about who I am and being comfortable, right, in your own skin. So it's like that's like we had no choice on where we're born. It is what it is. So it's like I didn't choose to be born in Nigeria, right? So like that's my truth. And when I began to see how people would respond, like, okay, that's your name. It is what it is. But you have to have confidence behind it, right? So when you're not, like, people can kind of see that, like, all right, bet. That's okay. That's your name. But if you're, like, kind of shaky or whatever the case may be, people are like, what's up, So, yeah, similar to you, bro. But with your Yoruba, like, why did you start watching movies? Like, did you talk to your parents? Like, what's good with that?
Yo, I'll be honest, man. I think it was because of all right, here's the deal. I'll keep it a beam when I'm here, right?
That's all. That's all we expect.
So my parents were always trying to hook me up with some Nigerians, right?
Okay.
But
you Mario.
I'm telling you, right? I'm telling you. But just to be honest, no offense on that, but I just wasn't feeling the ones, they were trying to hook me up with. I personally wasn't really attracted to them like that, you know, I mean, in the physical sense. So it wasn't until one of my cousins was like, yo, come to this Nigerian reunion. It's out in Cali. It's out in like LA somewhere. It was one of the West Coast cities. I mean, this is a long time ago, you know, when I first started
NRC,
college.
Nigerian Reunion Connection, I believe, right? Yeah, they used to go to different parts of America.
So that blew my world, Seun, because I saw so many pretty Nigerian girls. They just weren't around where I was at before. Wow. So
not say that they weren't there, but they just weren't around. You didn't have access to them.
And maybe I wasn't looking for them at that time, you know? So man.
How was that experience? So you go to Cali with your cousin. Now, before you go, for the people, was he like, how did your cousin sell it to you? Was he like, cuz we're going to Cali? And, you know, you're like, whatever. Like, how did he sell it to you? What were your perspective? I mean, what were your expectations before you got there and then when you got to Cali?
Yeah, the funniest thing about it was he sold it real good, but he sold it as like me and him were going to be staying in a room together, right?
Okay.
That's
so he downplayed
how he sold it. No, but it was cool. But when I get there, this guy has his girlfriend there in the room they're staying in. How am I going to stay in the room with
Oh, and by the way, here is my girl.
Right.
Crazy.
Right. He didn't say nothing about that. But
straight
you know
face.
What? I'm Folaji, so I adapted, man.
You adapted,
I
right.
So I met women, met guys, you know, we connected, and I kind of room hopped, you know, while I was there.
Okay. And how long was the event? Was it a weekend or?
It was probably like a 4-day event or something like that.
Yeah.
But the truth is, again, I saw a lot of beautiful women, and they were down to earth. You know, they were vibing, and that's when I kind of fell in love with the culture. You know, and wanted to actually, you know, embrace the culture. I think that was a big changing point for me, and made a lot of good relationships. Got a first girlfriend out of that. That was a Nigerian girlfriend. You know, and that was very different too because now I was with somebody who knew what jollof rice was. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I was with somebody who knew the traditional outfit, you know, some of the songs, you know. So the bond was different than just with somebody outside your culture. But I mean, that might be a whole nother topic.
Right.
Talk about,
scratching the surface. No, but I mean, but that's your truth, right? That's your reality on how what motivated you the more to, you know, get accustomed to your culture. Right. Yeah, that's real, man. In terms of, you know, us being first generation Africans here, let's talk about maybe family expectations, man. You talked about how was that? You know, your parents. You said earlier that they wanted you to have a girlfriend that was Nigerian, right? So, that's one aspect. Obviously, the relationship. As you look back, you know what I'm saying, at your life growing up in America, do you feel that you and again, not maybe it's you or your friends, family expectations, and how did you deal with that?
Man, I think things have changed. Things have changed from, I would say, from the early 2000s or even late 90s, at least when I was dealing with, you know, coming into liking women and girlfriends and things like that, to now, you know, and that's almost, you know, 2 decades. So things have changed. Okay. I think back then, and I'll get your perspective too, Seun, but I think back then there was really that want and desire for Nigerians to marry Nigerians, right? And not only just that though, but to marry in your tribe. You know what I'm saying? So Yoruba marrying a Igbo was not really good enough. You know, that wasn't like, you would have thought they would have been like, oh, that's great. At least, you know, maybe she's not Yoruba, but she's Nigerian, right? But back then it wasn't like that. And I have a whole other story I can tell, but we won't get into that. But that's how it was back then. But now I think that what has happened is there have been so many relationships throughout the Nigerian community, right, that didn't work, right? Because, he was Yoruba, she was Yoruba, and they split up, you know what I'm saying? I can attest to that because I had one of those relationships too. And then, you know, I think as time goes on, you know, the parents are now saying, you know what, these people aren't happy together, right? Wouldn't it actually just be better if there was somebody who they're happy with, you know, even if it's Caucasian, even if it's Asian, even if it's not somebody within that tribe. And I think it took a while for them to grasp that, you know, but now I think they're more okay with it because they've seen what happened. And I think all our parents at the end of the day want us to be as happy, you know, us to be successful, happy. And I think that now it's a lot more accepted. But that's my thought. I don't know. What do you think?
Man, yeah, I mean, family pressure, pressure in quotations. I feel that our parents, man, when you hear their stories growing up, like, you know, when I was your age, I had to walk miles to fetch water, and like, so they would come from that perspective, like, hold up, we're in America now, and like, y'all got it good, like, yo, where we came from, we worked, like, you see what I'm saying? They had to do a lot, so I feel like sometimes they came with that perspective, right? Not that they purposely wanted to be myopic, but they kind of had their own outlook on life, right? Imagine coming to a whole new land for opportunity as an adult, 30 plus. So it's like they only know what they know, which is Nigeria. So I think at times them superimposing their Nigerian upbringing on the way we are, the way society is here, it kind of was a little frustrating. You know what I'm saying? Like when you juxtapose the two. But it's like, now as I'm older, I'm like, you know what? I'll just talk to them, right? Like I don't think we talked enough when we were younger. Both sides, right? So,
but I think that could also be a dynamic of us just being older and wiser and
right,
more mature,
right.
Because one of the things that I used to ask my parents, I'd be like, Mom, do you enjoy your kids more now when we're older or more back then when we were younger? And she was like, now, because she can talk to us and share things with us that we otherwise couldn't, share or understand.
No, that's a fact, man. Yeah, I think, and you said it, took the words right out of my mouth, like talking, right? Like having a conversation, so not having assumptions, right? So, looking at myself now, it's like that's definitely what I encourage the younger ones coming up that may have some, challenges talking to their parents. Sometimes you gotta be the initiator. You know what I mean? Like, yo, mom, dad. Like, I know it's not easy, but like you said, they're more open now, and I think also to them or parents living in America now, like they're probably a little bit more assimilated to how society works. So,
well, here's another question for you, right?
Sure.
In that same realm, when it comes to expectations of career, right? We all know that Nigerian parents always used to be doctor, lawyer, engineer, and those were like the big three, right?
Right.
Anything else was kind of almost maybe not making them happy, I'd say.
Right.
But for you went into marketing, right? Well, I don't know. You did accounting, actually.
I did accounting, right? So, undergrad, yeah.
Okay, so how was your
transition journey? Well, that's a good question, bro. I feel like back to what I was saying earlier, our parents, doctor, lawyer, engineer, those are the strong professions back home, right? So for them, that's security. Yeah, back home, if I'm a doctor, if I'm a lawyer, engineer, it's like you're gonna have a job, right? So they were more so not necessarily not that they cared for how can I say this? They cared about us, but they didn't necessarily care for our happiness in a sense of what we wanted to do. And again, not that they didn't care, but they knew, like, you know what? These respective professions, they're going to get you the money and they're going to, like, bring in the bills. I mean, you'll get the money, you pay the bills, and then that, as a byproduct, you'll be happy. You know what I'm saying? But what I discovered was people were doing a lot of things that they didn't want to do, and they weren't happy. Now, they're making the money, but this is not their passion. You feel me? So for me, why did I pick accounting? I was just always intrigued by business, you know what I'm saying? And talking to like people that were in business or reading, I'm like, yo, tell me about business. And they were like, well, accounting is the language of business, as it's said in so many of the great accounting books. So that's what intrigued me. So I'm like, you know what? I can learn business, and if I understand the language of business, I can navigate accordingly. So it just made sense to me. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll be an accountant for a doctor or for a lawyer or whatever. But it made sense to me, and I worked in hedge fund space for several years and was fascinated and opened up my eyes to a lot. But I was affected by the 2008 mortgage meltdown. For those of you who know, that's when the housing market was bubbling, and then all of a sudden it went crashing. And I know we'll talk about your real estate and all the good stuff you're doing in that field. But for me, that was a wake-up call, right? Because I lost my job, bro. So I never got fired or nothing. And then, pardon me, to have your employer be like, yo, this is it. Your downsize, yo, I didn't know how to handle that. You know what I'm saying? So it was a wake-up call. So I'm like, hold up, this is the only thing I've been doing. This is what I know. What do I do? And that's another thing I'm learning now, like, as I look back at my younger self, like, it's about being resilient. But anyway, I had an opportunity to work on Wall Street, was working with a recruiter, lost my job, and I was like, all right, let me bounce around, see what the market is offering. I just bro, I ain't feel it. After, like, I think the fourth interview, the what's it called? The recruiter had so many interviews lined up, but after the fourth one, I was like, yo, this ain't for me, so I don't want to do this. So was still sitting on my severance. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then
Shout out to the severance.
Shout out to the severance. Yeah, that'd keep you abreast and afloat for a while. But funny enough, I was like, I want to be a doctor, but not a medical doctor like my father, a doctor of physical therapy. So I was like, you know what? I like that. So I went to community college for a year. And that was, so imagine going back to school as an adult. So I'm 4 years in working, and I'm 26 years old in community college, you know, to do all my prereqs. It was a whole different perspective, but I did that for about a year and didn't like that. So long story short, you know yeah, man. So a lot of people, I kept it low key because, you know, I was cool. I had my severance and I had some savings, and then I just was like, you know what, just doing all these different networking events. Shout out to Philly, UPPN. I met the current CEO of the firm I'm working at now, which is a brand management firm. After talking with the founder of Urban Philly, and we actually all met together.
Yeah,
Folaji met my CEO and the founder of Urban Philly. We were just at an event, and I was just intrigued by, and what Urban Philly does is brings together a lot of young urban professionals, and they would have this thing called Third Fridays, and they would have all these dope, powerful CEOs, women, men, and I was intrigued, like, yo, how do you secure these speakers? And I got introduced to the CEO of the brand management firm I work with now. I've been doing that for about 7 years. So full circle, I think it's just important to articulate with your parents, you know, what your passion is, and not be so upset, like, if they feel one way, like, you know what I mean? Because they're coming from a place of, this is what I know.
Right.
But they may not be the nicest and how, quote unquote, nice. They're just direct, you know. And growing up in America, like, it's low key, like they care so much about feelings and how you're talked to. And African parents, they're just, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them, they're just raw. And what may be perceived as low key abuse, it's not, because the way they talk to us at times, you may be like, yo, what's good? But they really do love us, and so it's just maturity. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, was there kind of pushback from your parents when you kind of left the corporate space? Not really corporate, but, you know, left the accounting job and didn't want to go back into accounting?
Yeah, I think they were. What I discovered then, they're just like, find another job, you'll get another one. Go back to, you know, find another hedge fund to work for. But for me, honestly, I was upset. Like, why me? Like, again, I think a lot of times you don't really prepare for these certain things. You know what I mean? You just take it for granted. I'm gonna work forever. And then I just was like, fire me? Like, what? Or not even fire, again, get let go or downsize because of the whole mortgage meltdown. Right. So it was just frustrating, you know what I'm saying? It felt like a firing, but it was actually just being downsized because of the mortgage meltdown. So I think they were just like concerned that, you know, you get stable employment again, you know what I mean? So, but after I articulate myself, they know, like, okay, you know what, this kid, you know, we raised him well, right? So hopefully he knows what he's doing, but, you know, as long as you sustain yourself, take care of the bills, they're good, they're happy.
And to your point, I think, like you said, it was nothing, no ill will. They wanted the best for us. Right. And, you know, they knew that those professions, like you said, would pay the bills, and they felt like once you can do that and sustain life on your own, you can have fun however you want to have fun. Mm-hmm. You know, have fun on your spare time when you're not at work, kind of thing. So they, and I kind of, and real quick on me, because I know we're going to move and kind of segue and break out for a quick second, but the thing with me was when I went to college, I just wanted to do what would get me a good amount of money as fast as possible. I did not really like school. I was good at school. I was okay, you know what I'm saying? I like different aspects of school, but I just wanted to start making money. So I went to a counselor one time, and he was like, you know, what are you good at? I said, I'm okay at math. He's like, well, did you consider engineering? And I was like, how long will I have to be in school for? He was like 4, maybe 5 years. And I was like, how much will I make when I come out? And he's like, between this and that. I said, sign me up. and so, straight like that. That's it. And then I didn't have maybe some of the pushback that other kids had when they wanted to do the other professions other than the big three, we'll call them, right? You know what I'm saying? So I didn't, my parents were like, you want to do engineering? Great, go ahead. And they supported me fully, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So it's all good, man.
That's cool, man. Shout out. But, you know, we here now. You know, that's just a little bit of what we got for y'all. You know what I mean? We're going to let y'all hear some tunes as we rock out.
Yeah, this was a good first go.
Yeah, we still here.
That's Pepper Soup, dog.
Okay.
She get it boyfriend, we no like to spend. She get it boyfriend, he 2 day kaku. She get the boyfriend, oh my God. She enter her DM, she see Omope Bolale Shope. She enter her DM, oh Ramo Beta, oh. Boss in the trap, volet, baby, I won't face shout. Prepare them, Bolale, prepare them.
All my life, been grinding all my life.
Career.
Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price.
A lot of us.
Want a slice, roll the dice.
Grinding. That's how we feel, right? We've been grinding our life in the career, yo.
Grinding all my life.
Yeah.
Sacrifice, hustle, pay the
Career is a grind. That's that rat race. That rat race.
Right.
You want to get out.
So with that being said, right, we've been doing career grinding, man. I got some questions for you, man. All right, you ready? So obviously, you know, they say nothing going on but the rent. You gotta have a job if you wanna be with me. So we know. Anyway,
Right.
yeah, but basically, career is important, right? So for people that may be out there, you know, maybe going through this particular situation, maybe know someone. I have a scenario question for you. Let's say there's a doctor, since we talked about this. There's a medical doctor. The young lady's put in a lot of time, hours, right? So she's now in her, let's say after residency, right? She's a year in. She's a primary doctor. Bro, she hates it. So you have someone that invested, what is that, about 20, almost 20 plus years in education, right? Going into their 30s for the most part, right? When you're done your residency, maybe like late 20s, early 30s. But now they're miserable. They're like, man, I done put all this time in. Does this person, in your opinion, should they stay within it, just work through this frustration? Or should they maybe like reconsider just starting all over? Maybe their passion was making clothes and they're really nice at this, like a tailor. What do you recommend? Should they A, stick with it, get over it? You done put this work in. All right, what you talking about? You don't like this. You be all right. You done made it. You done passed. But do they compromise their happiness, or should they just, should they be like, no, I'm going to just go for it? And should they be a tailor? What would you say?
Man, that's a loaded question, man. I think there are a lot of different factors one has to think about. Because funny enough, I'm making a transition, right? So I'm making this transition from corporate six-figure job to, you know, doing my entrepreneurship. But that money doesn't come in right away. So I'm able to try to take that leap because, honestly, just because of the severance, because of some money I had put away, because, you know, the timing of everything. So the thing is, if they're a doctor, they hate it, and they have kids. It's so loaded because.
What if they don't have kids? Let's talk about both.
Yeah, okay. So if you don't have kids, I think it's a little bit different, right?
Okay.
Because it's a little easier to say, maybe, you know what, I'm gonna go and ride this through. I'm gonna get me a 1-bedroom studio.
Okay.
You know, and I don't care. I'll live in a bad part of the city because that's how much I'll be able to afford for rent if I take this new path, right? So I think it's a little bit different. So to sum it up for me, I would definitely want them to get out of it, but sometimes it's just not so easy to get out of it and really switch careers. Funny enough, I was talking to this career management lady and we were talking through because my company had a, I just had this connection where, you know, they'll help you transition or whatever. And it's just funny, she made a joke. I was like, yeah, you know, I want to transition, but, you know, I got to be careful because I have responsibilities. And she was like, yeah, it's good to have housing. It's good to have a roof over your head.
Like practical.
Yeah, real practical. So obviously I would want them to get out of it. It just has to be very calculated.
And this is for the single person?
For both.
Oh, for both. Okay.
Yeah, it's got to be calculated. You're going to have to sacrifice the transitions. Now, and here's why I say it's loaded too. Has that person put money away? Like if you put some good savings away, then maybe it gives you 6 to 12 months to go ahead and try and grind. But if you don't have anything put away, and doctors sometimes they don't, they have these crazy student loans, right? So it's a loaded question. Ultimately, I would want that person to be happy and do their passion, but that transition can be a beast, and it can be very scary.
That's fair, man. I appreciate it. I think you really, I think you answered it well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Think about it, and you
Yeah.
got to really be real with yourself, and not go off your emotion.
Here's one for you: career development, and we're all going to deal with this as either we've already dealt with it as we're growing up, or we'll have children.
Okay.
So what if there's a case where you have a child, and that child wants to be a dancer? I'm not talking about a stripper or anything like that, but they just like to dance,
right?
And
Broadway,
Broadway, something like that. And funny enough, I have 2 daughters, and one of them is a great dancer, but she's not coming to me telling me, "Daddy, I want to be a dancer." You know what I'm saying? She loves to do it, and she could be very successful at it. But again, that's not one of those typical careers, and it doesn't have to be the big 3. A lot of careers out there nowadays are good. But what would you tell a child that wants to pursue kind of their dream, and their dream is not necessarily what's going to pay the bills?
Well, that's a good question, bro. I would actually say they should try the stripping, the one that you said they shouldn't. I'm joking.
I'm looking at you.
Yo, his face is crazy. Right. No, but no. We want to be real, right? On this pod, some people they consider that, right? They're in school. They're like, I want to strip. We're not advocating that. We're not, Anywho, okay, that was funny. Nonetheless, no, I think that is very important. Whatever the field is, and even for people, because we've talked about, we wanted to be honest in this pod, and I think sometimes, bro, that's a hat we don't really, I can maybe speak to, right? Or we're afraid, but the reality is, strippers do exist, and professional dancers exist, right? So for women who, by circumstance, have to go into the stripping profession, they actually do weigh the benefits and the risk. You know what I mean? I think sometimes we front and we pretend like these things don't exist. Some women actually make these choices because they feel like it's easy. I have the body. So now this is a good question because it's real. Some women really make that, or young ladies make that decision. But I feel like a lot of them probably know, yo, that's not sustainable, yo. So they're not happy in it, right? So I think, to your question, to bring it back full circle now, for a young kid who's thinking about this, they should, one, have an open and honest conversation with their parents. Do research, right? So let's say you want to be a photographer. One thing I noticed, there's multi-millionaire photographers. There's multi-millionaire DJs. What do they do? One of my old heads, my mentor, says it's okay to be a copycat if you copy the right cat. Find out what they're doing, how did they do it, research, be proactive. Now you can present this to your parents or present this to your guardian. Look, I've done this research. These are 5 photographers in the past year that have made $1 million. I'm interested in becoming a photographer. So now they're not just downplaying it because you've done your research. It's practical, it's empirical, and they could be like, wait, hold on, right? What? There's photographers that make that much money? So I think just being real and going out there and not just acting off emotion, really go out there, y'all. If you want to be a professional dancer like your daughter, what's the salary of a off-Broadway dancer? What does that entail? What's that journey like? And I think sometimes just even going maybe to Broadway and being proactive to find out what is their schools, NYU, Tisch School of Arts, I believe. Yeah, in NYU, or is that Temple? I'm sorry. No, it's Fox School of Business. Anyway, the point is you have programs at Temple and different higher institutions that actually, Drexel has a photography program. There's a lot of higher education schools. So, and the beauty of that is your daughter can be in a school that teaches her dream of so she can learn it professionally, learn the business of it, and go from there. So I think if you do that, right, don't assume. You know what I mean? I'll just end on that. Don't assume. There's a book that it's called Assume Nothing, right? So you don't know what you don't know. So don't be afraid to research it, look what's out there, and be practical, right? And hopefully you can find something that your passion, and it's a journey. Enjoy the journey and have some fun with it.
Have some fun with it. No, great advice, Sean. Great advice.
Yeah, man.
Okay, all right, I like it. This is some King Sunny Ade.
Yeah, man. Ja for me.
Yeah.
It's for our parents, we ain't forget about y'all. We ain't forget about our elders, right? How we grew up was to respect our elders. So this is the music that we will be hearing in the background growing up, So this instrumental right here, Ja for me, means God fight for me. So this is one of the legendary musicians, King Sunny Ade.
And shout out to our parents. I'm so impressed with what they've done, man. Sometimes
Definitely.
I look at me and where I am in my career, and I'm like, man, you know, for my parents to get to where they've got to and giving me all that they could give me, I'm just so impressed because, you know,
it's not sweet.
It
wasn't easy, and you do have a newfound appreciation when you. And it's so interesting. We would hear that growing up, like you're not gonna know until you get to our age. You're like whatever, but when you see how life is, when you get to be older, you're like, yo, this is real. So definitely shout out to all the parents out there that are raising first generation kids. We appreciate y'all. We salute y'all. You know, you guys are doing well. So man, wow, just like that, man. We wrapped up, man. What can the people expect, bro? What we got for the people? You know what I mean? I think we got some. Look, are y'all ready out there? Y'all not ready for what Pepper Soup Pod got for y'all, but you know what? Just to let y'all know, we gonna really, like I said, thank you firstly for just riding out with us, you know, and joining us for our first journey. You know what I mean? But what we got coming up for the year, for as long as we can go, we got entrepreneurship in the 21st century. We're gonna talk about family dynamics, relationships. Can you date older if you're a guy? Date an older woman? Interracial relationships, food experiences. We're going to talk about real estate, investing. We're going to talk about living your dreams and what does that mean. More about our diaspora upbringing and diaspora influence, religion, and that's just scratching the surface, right? But the bottom line is like these things have shaped us, and it shapes all of us, and you know we just want to share with y'all, you know, as we navigate through this thing called life. It's been a beautiful journey, and we just want to share some of our experience with y'all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, you know what, Seun, this feels so good, man. We actually did it, man.
We talked about it, and we did it.
A lot of times, and we've talked some things through the years, and we never really came to fruition. I think my advice to anybody who wants to do anything is just do it. You know, don't think too much about it. I mean, think about it, have a plan, but just start. You know, you just got to start. Sometimes you can talk yourself out of doing something if you try to plan every single aspect and detail. So just that's my advice.
Word.
So I like it. I think this is going to be great.
I'm excited, man. We here, man. PSP.
Can they follow us on social media somewhere?
Yeah, Pepper Soup Pod, you know what I'm saying? Be on the lookout for it, right? We're actually in the developmental stages, but yeah, we're going to be on Instagram. I think we can talk about the platforms, right? So we're just in the developmental stages of finalizing our IG page. We're going to have a Twitter handle, Facebook, all that, you know what I mean? But we're going to be on social. We're around. You know, we got some goodies in store for y'all.
Yeah, last thing I'd say is we're going to have some interesting guests too.
Sure.
You know, definitely people and they're experts in their field. Both Nigerian and American alike,
right? And, Caribbean, all that.
Yeah, just to get a different vibe and feel. But thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes,
we really look forward to talking more to you guys. DM us comments. You know, if you think we're whack or corny, let us know.
Yeah, we're here. We got big skin, thick skin rather. We good. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.